Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I will be showing you how I was able to make this oak wooden pen. First thing you'll want to do is pick out a pen kit online. There are several options to look for. And inside the pen kit you are going to see some brass tubes. There could be one, there could be two. Now if these tubes are smooth, you will want to rough them up. The purpose of this, so when you epoxy or glue them into your wood blank later on, there's kind of something for the epoxy to grip onto. You will also be needing a wood or acrylic blank. In this case, I chose an oak branch from my backyard. You're going to want to measure the brass tubes against the blank or your branch, and give yourself a little bit of room, like about 1/8 of an inch more. This will allow you to square up the blank later on. Cut that to size. And repeat the process for your second blank. Once you have both of your blanks cut, you're going to want to drill a center hole through the blanks. In this case, I am using a 7mm drill bit. If you're using a branch like I am, you may want to use a square to make sure that you are going as vertical as possible. Now, if you do not drill perfectly centered on these blanks, that is okay. We're going to be whittling these away to very thin pen blanks. The next step, we're going to move on to a two-part epoxy. It's a resin and a hardener. And you want equal amounts of this. So for this one pen, I'd say you'd want about a dime size of each. And then the trick with this epoxy is make sure that you mix it very well. Okay, the whole chemical reaction that causes it to harden is when those two mix. So if you fail to mix thoroughly, you could affect the integrity of your pen. Once your epoxy is mixed thoroughly, go ahead and spread it good and thick onto your tubes. Starting on one end, you will want to twist your tube back and forth to ensure an even coating. And make sure that you just go in one direction. Do not pull back and insert again, because you can risk getting epoxy inside of the brass tube. Just want to make sure it stays between the tube and the branch. I use the popsicle stick to level it and also wipe away the excess epoxy. And then of course repeat for both of your brass tubes. Now these will need to dry for a minimum of 3 hours. I typically will let these dry overnight. Once your blanks are dry, the next step is to square them up. So we are going to use it's called a barrel trimmer. It's a 7mm barrel trimmer. And what we will do here is we are going to square up our branches with our brass tubes. So remember how we added that 1/8 inch, in this case maybe 1/2 inch. We're going to drill that extra away until it is flush with our brass tube inside. I do repeat this process on both sides. Even though the tube was inserted flush, there's going to be some extra epoxy, and you'll see that we're able to remove just a little bit to get it square. And of course repeat for both blanks. Moving on to the lathe, we will want to start with a 7mm bushing, our first blank, another bushing, our second blank, and a trailing bushing. And finally, the lock nut. We will begin turning these blanks around 1900 to 2000 RPM. And I do recommend, because these have the bark on them, to make just small light passes at first, because you'll see a little bit later this bark tends to fly off. Once you are happy with the shape of your pen blanks, we will move on to sanding. We will be sanding starting from the 150 grit up to 600. You will now want to wipe off the excess dust on the blank before you add a protective layer. And in this case, I am going to be using a CA finish, and then of course a CA accelerator spray. I highly recommend. An effective way I have found for applying CA is to run a bead across the top of a paper towel, and then a quick couple passes on the pen blank to apply it. The CA accelerator spray will go on after each application. After 3 coats of this CA, I do another round of sanding, and this time I just use a 600 grit. And then I finish up with another 3 coats of the CA. By now you should have a nice gloss finish. And moving on to the last step to really polish it up is going to be a micro mesh sanding. Now this is a wet sanding. We're going to start with a 1500 grit all the way up to 12,000. With the micro mesh sanding, we do not have to push too hard. We're not trying to wear away too much of our finish layer. Once you are done with the micro mesh sanding, it is time for your pen assembly. Now, I don't have anything fancy for a pen press. There are multiple pen presses online. You can go ahead and get yourself one if you would like. I would say they run roughly $70 to maybe $140. But here you can see that I just use a pipe clamp, and I have found that this is successful. And also I apologize, I used a pad here to protect the tip a little bit more, and it kind of affected the view, and it also didn't work that great. So carefully line up each piece, make sure it is level or parallel with the pipe, and gently press them into their correct spots. And there you have it. A handmade oak pen, 24 karat gold hardware. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.